each run for Commissioner, Precinct 1. It's Thursday, November 21st. With me is Dale Fessenden, Larry Rogers, James Byers, David Smith, Dennis Tibbs, Pat Tibbs. So Billy, as we talked about, if you want to get us started, certainly take up the 5 minutes in an opening, and thank you for coming in tonight. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me the privilege of coming and just sharing my thoughts and my philosophies of life a little bit. And it's a great looking group here. And I think it's really important to understand who I am a little bit. Not everybody knows me that well, and I think that would be a good place to start. I'm a husband of a beautiful wife of 38 years. We just had our anniversary, and so that was great. We've got some kids, three men, fully grown, who have produced for us 7 grandchildren. One of them has passed, so we've got 6 that we get to play with, which is really exciting. So our household is always fun when the family's around. So you can imagine how family friendly I am. We're a strong believer in family values. I've pastored for over 25 years now. I'm no longer pastoring. I'm retired as a pastor as far as the institutional perspective, but I provide rebuild services through a nonprofit that we run. And that is one of the most exciting things, really, aside from the pastor work. What I have found is that for the last 40 years, guys, I have been in service. And I hadn't really thought about it until I started running for this position, but as I started looking back, doing some bio work, I realized that for the last 40 years, my entire life has been serving. I started serving at the age of 19 as a United States Marine, and when I finished doing that, I got out of the Marine Corps and started serving in the local church as a deacon, and then I began serving as a pastor, and now I'm serving our community as a leader in a nonprofit that goes into disaster areas, flooded areas specifically as our specialty, and we try to assist as many families as we possibly can in the recovery area of life. We go beyond just the physical. We focus on the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. The nice thing about having that kind of a multifaceted background, we're able to be holistic in all that we do. And so, and the reason I wanted to share that is because I think it's important as we look at the role of a commissioner. Many of the skills that we use in nonprofit work are the types of skills we need as a commissioner. Fiscally conservative, very ethical in character. We say what I say is what I mean, and so I try to be very thoughtful in what I say. I'm very not driven, but very passionate about the things that I believe in, and I will fight for the things that are right. And I'm rarely swung just because you want me to be swung. Sometimes you just have to fight for what's right, whether people like it or not. I think part of that's the military that's in the back of my background. But along with that, the skills that come with doing the work we do, I work with county. I work at a county level. We work with cities, we work with counties. Our specialty is going in and partner directly with county judges and leadership, elected officials, and we bring into their ability to help their counties recover. We take over all the administrative activity for recovery work. We partner with those guys. We go out and we write grants. Since Hurricane Harvey, we've written grants for over $3 million, and we've distributed over $5 million of services, and it was all free. We gave it all away because our goal is to serve people. And as I look at the commissioner's role, one of the things that I find missing, at least in Precinct 1, I don't see a lot of service to the community. And my goal, if elected, is to bring stewardship leadership, which means I want to serve the community at every level possible. And I want to find ways to lower the spending that we have in our committees, in our precincts, so that we can really meet the needs of our community in a more fiscal directed way. And so that's why I'm running, because I want to serve. So thank you.
Great, thank you. In your intro online,
Yes, sir.
Overview, you mentioned that you did a 4-year tour course in the U.S. Marine Corps. Appreciate your service.
Thank you.
You worked in technology arena, designing, installing, and maintaining industrial and distributed control systems.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever run across a concept called decision analysis in that? It's something that's used in oil and gas industry, and some government agencies use that in their decision. It's kind of like when the Final Four of basketball, and you
Right,
start off
right.
with these brackets, and you got
You just work your way
64
down.
teams, and you work your way down.
Sure. Yes, sir.
And you can actually do that with roads and cost.
Yes.
And so,
We actually used to do that a lot, and in the work that I did, we identified problems, and we would start here, and we would essentially break it in half, break it in half, break it in half, till we found the core,
right.
and we would identify what those problems are, analyze all the issues that got us there, define the purpose of fixing it, and we would repair the problems, and that's how we would redesign systems.
So I sat down a couple of years ago, actually it was more than a couple, it was 2015, road bond, and I sat down with our former board chair.
Yes, sir.
Who's a transportation expert, and also an expert from ExxonMobil, because I used to sell the software for decision analysis to oil and gas companies.
Okay.
And we sat down, we went over that, and it's something that you can basically tie roads into this decision process. It's a decision tree, just like the bracketing of the Final Four, 64 teams.
It's like a flow chart. It's all flow charting, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
And so you can do that with each road in the county, believe it or not. The life of the road, and how much it's gonna cost to maintain it and repairs. That's something that
I would love
you
to.
could bring.
I would love to
into the-
see more analysis, because there's a lot of factors that go into identifying future costs, future repairs, material used, vehicle activity, weather patterns. All of those, I think, go into those calculations, and then we can better understand what are our actual repair costs going to be over time. How long are these? I think we don't always anticipate how long a road really will last, because we don't take the time.
Well, what they did, what the commissioners did up until 2015 is, hey, you take 25 million, you take 25 million, you have 25, whether they have projects or not. And what this does is rank and sorts all the
Right.
roads in the county by priority, and it makes no difference if you're the commissioner or somebody else, it's the road in need
Yeah.
that needs to be done, so.
I think that would be a wonderful tool for us to use at the county, because again, I'm all about lowering our expenses, lowering our costs, and providing the same service for less dollars, which I know we can do. There's a lot of tools out there that we can use that.
Right,
So I think that'd be a wonderful tool if we would implement it.
okay. Dell.
Okay, if you're elected commissioner,
Yes, sir.
what happens to iConnect?
iConnect Outreach it's still there. It's a ministry. It changes what it looks like. I'm actually transitioning iConnect now. We're building more of a leadership team, and I'm teaching them how to be me. And so it's kind of like church work. My church work will still be there whether I'm a commissioner or not. And for me, this is one of those tools that I have for the community. What we're looking at really trying to do right now is to find some local ministries we can partner with, or different nonprofits that we can partner with, and reformat what we do, kind of moving away from disaster relief, because that keeps me on the road a lot, and find a way to do more local outreach programming. And so that's kind of the goal. I'm not going to shut it down. I'm just going to reformat it to match the time allotment, and bring in different staff to hopefully do that.
So how much time as of January 1st, 2021,
Mm-hmm.
when the new commissioner takes office,
Mm-hmm.
as of that time, how much of your time do you see dedicated to the ministry work,
Mm-hmm.
dedicated to the iConnect work, and dedicated to the commissioner's work?
Well, if this community believes in me enough to hire me, and I think when they elect you, they hire you, then they will be the priority. and we will spend whatever time we need to spend for that position and to do the job that we need to do. iConnect Outreach will be a secondary focus in my life, using other volunteers to help facilitate that. And in the event we're unable to translate it into something functional, then I'll just close it.
Okay. Larry?
Okay. The industrial distributed control system,
Yes, sir.
how many years did you do that?
Did it for 12 years. 10 years I did it as a kind of a design installer engineer position. The last 2 years I actually did a sales position. I was a salesman for 2 years in outside sales.
In that first
I actually was drawing up contracts, doing maintenance
in the
contracts.
first 10 years, did you have any of the budgetary?
Had a lot of budgetary requirements, yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Every project was put together, calculated, budgeted, and our clients were Exxon, Mobil, Shell, DuPont, Dow.
Okay.
I made paper, our products made paper, oil, all kind of chemical things, so, Firestone.
Your iConnect,
Yes, sir.
since 2008, looks like it's done very well from the standpoint of helping a lot of people. Has your company, and I'll ask it this way, how did Montgomery County receive your company in the hurricane?
During Hurricane Harvey, when Hurricane Harvey hit, we were kind of in what I call a plateaued load mode for the ministry. We had basically expended our funds, and we were looking for our next opportunity. I had $500 in the ministry account at the time, and we had just moved up here about a month or two before that hurricane. So we were it was kind of in a holding mode, because we were going to transition the whole philosophy up here, do some new things. And when the storm hit, I actually connected to one of the little Baptist churches here in town that had moved. The church was empty. We set up office. I also partnered with another church in Magnolia, and we set up working with them. They were bringing in volunteers, and I wrote some grants to facilitate buying materials and repairing homes in the Magnolia area through fiduciary means at the time. And
But the majority of the 500,000 hours of service was done in what area?
9 different counties. 9 different counties, yes, sir. Houston or Harris, Brazoria, Montgomery, Chambers, Liberty, Orange, Hardin. I think those 9. A lot of it, the first 4 months of Hurricane Harvey, we were all over the Houston area, Montgomery area, gutting houses. We did hundreds. We helped gut hundreds of houses in this area.
So you have had some interaction with the Commissioners Court with your iConnect company?
Not directly, no, sir.
Not directly?
No, they were, actually, they weren't that involved, really,
Okay,
at least at that point.
all right.
In your precinct 1, North Montgomery County,
Yes, sir.
there's quite an amazing facility called the Conroe Airport.
Yes, sir.
Let me read this to you. The facility is a collaborative funding effort. This is August 2019 article.
Okay.
It's a collaborative funding effort between the Woodlands Economic Development Partnership, Montgomery County,
Okay.
the City of Conroe, the Conroe Industrial Development Corporation, Black Forest Ventures, and Shenandoah Municipal Development District.
Okay.
Sounds to me like quite the tax dollar sinkhole.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware of how much of the county budget, this last budget, went to the Conroe Airport?
I was there, I don't remember the exact
Okay.
number. I know that
I
we
have
came
a
up in
number.
a deficit. I know that there was a deficit at the end of the year budgeted, expected.
$700,000.
Right.
Just from the county.
Right.
Now, the other amazing fact is the airport is still not certified for commercial air.
Right.
And the manager of the facility said, well, you know, we're wanting to do that, but we're just not sure that the tax dollars will be there for the improvements that we need.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, why are we wasting, or I'll take that out. Why are we spending tax dollars on an airport that is, since its creation, has been unable to, now, you read about it, oh, we bring in this much money, this is all we cost. What I just read to you is what they live on. That's their
Right.
bread and butter. So why do we continue to fork over tax dollars to what should be a private enterprise? Why can't the county sell that monstrosity off? If it fails, it fails. And if it makes a bit money, hey, that's great. But why do we continue to fund that?
Well, I think that's a great question, because that's the question I asked when I heard that we had a regional airport in Conroe. I said, don't we have an international airport 30 miles away? And then I sat through the budget workshops. I'm thinking to myself, why do we have an airport that loses money? So why they do it, I don't know. I see no reason to have an airport like that under the dollars of the Montgomery County voters. I see no purpose. I just as soon turn it private and let them fight it. To me, an airport is not really something I think the county needs to have their hands in. I think they have their hands in enough stuff. I don't think we need to be in the middle of an airport. Let the capitalists of the county deal with the airport, and let us deal with the things of the people.
Thank you.
Yes, to continue the discussion on spending, Denton and Collin, Montgomery County is one of the top 10 counties by population.
Yes.
And, Denton and Collin County up north, their tax rate is half of what we have in Montgomery County.
Yes, sir.
In Denton County, they have 750 county employees. In Montgomery County, we have 1,500 government employees.
Right.
And so we've been spending amply.
Yeah.
You're running to replace one of the big spenders
Yes, sir.
in the history of Texas,
Yes, sir.
and so the two questions I have for you,
Oh, two.
two
Great.
questions I have is, will you commit tonight to never vote for a tax rate that is above the no new revenue tax rate? First question. And the second question, you have to have a form, I've learned, of 4 commissioners to vote for a tax increase. You have to have 3 votes to pass it, but you have to have
You have to have
4
4
to have a form.
correct.
Will you commit to exit the commissioner's court if it looks like they're gonna pass the tax rate above the no new revenue tax rate? Will
So you
you
talking about an
commit to
effective
leaving
tax
the?
rate? You talking about an effective tax rate?
I'm talking about the no new revenue tax rate, that's the new, so you can have all the growth taxes you want,
Right, right.
and that's what they
Right.
did, I guess, for the first time
Right.
this
Right,
year.
right.
So will you make the commitment to
I will.
not to vote,
Yep.
and if they looks like you're gonna lose, exit, so there's no quorum?
Well, you have to not show
You have to
up.
not show up.
Not show up, right.
According to state law.
Yeah, not show up.
Yeah, just not be there.
Not
So,
be there.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
In fact, I've made public statements that I don't think we should ever go beyond the effective tax rate anyway. That should be our low spot, as far as I'm concerned. We start there and go down, and that's been publicly made before. And I will do it on camera again. I will agree to that.
That's your second question.
Those are the 2 questions, you answered them both.
Well, I guess this is a night for commitments. Taxpayers are frustrated with government and frustrated with government leadership for many reasons. Chief among them is promising tax relief.
Mm-hmm.
And most of these candidates campaign on tax relief, and in particular on protecting the exemptions for seniors and disabled people.
Mm-hmm.
And yet our court, in the last 2 things that they did that were tax relief, did it in a way that totally excludes seniors. Seniors won't get a penny out of the last 2 things they did. The homestead exemption and this last tax cut.
All right.
And I've talked to, well, everybody know, in fact, but legislators in particular.
Mhm.
And I say, why can't our county do the same thing that the state gives the ISDs authority to do?
Mm-hmm.
And they tell me it's because your commissioners don't care about you. So the stage we're at now is we need to get everybody involved that will do it, to write a letter to the legislature and say, we want to do for our constituents what you do for the ISDs.
Mhm.
So would you commit to be involved in sending a letter like that to our legislators?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Absolutely.
You're done.
I'm done now.
Yes.
Let me see if I can find another commitment question.
Oh, great, John, thank you, man. Go read my website, I've already got a lot of commitments on my website publicly, so.
See if I cut your grass for you.
As long as they don't cost anything, you know, we're all good.
No, none of mine do. I'm a nonprofit guy, so.
So in our section under budget,
Yes, sir.
the second question, will you vote toward any contract with less than 3 qualified bidders? You said no. And then you went on to say, I believe all bidders should offer bids with a new completion bonds model in mind. And can you explain what that means? I'm not familiar with that.
Sure,
term.
that really is referring more to road construction or building construction. I know a lot of times these guys, we give contracts out, and a completion bond forces the contractor to meet timelines, and they get bonuses for finishing early, they get penalized for finishing late, and it's part of the contract, and it is a way to really to manage contractors to accommodate what we really want them to do, and that's timely completion.
So it's like a performance
It's a
bond.
performance bond, that's
Okay.
exactly correct.
Okay. And kind of a related question a little bit further down in that. So they did lower the effective tax rate, which you mentioned.
Right.
Did you support a vote for or against the $336 million 2020 budget? And of course, you said, you know, you're not in yet.
Right.
You didn't vote. But there's a way to exceed that, right?
It's real easy, yeah, all throughout, they can amend it all throughout the year.
Right,
Right.
which they probably will do, right? Is that something?
The 2 years I've been here, they've done it.
Yeah, would you hold the line on that if it's not in the budget to basically, unless it's an emergency? So here's.
I would do my part, I would, as 1 out of 5, I would do my part to hold us accountable for the document that we sign in at the beginning of the year. I've never run a business where I could amend my budget every 6 months and get more money to do things. I had to live by whatever budget, unless it's an emergency.
They do it every 2 weeks.
Exactly, yeah, and so I will advocate the same way I run my nonprofit, and that is do twice as much with twice as less.
Okay. All right, twice a week.
It didn't really come out quite right, but
But we know what you mean.
yeah, twice as little
Yeah.
With less.
with less.
Good luck. So, yeah.
Okay. Under the 3 largest challenges, your first one was fiscal discipline, and one of your bullets into there talked about returning surplus revenues to taxpayers. That raises a question because, of course, Texas has a rainy day fund with a formal name. Businesses have reserves or whatever, and all that. I don't know how Montgomery County, as a county, does its reserve. Obviously, having something put back for a rainy day is smart business.
Which they have, they do have that.
So, are you indicating that, how would you determine surplus revenues based on, I don't know how much the reserve is, and how much would you consider
Well,
surplus revenues?
I would, once we hit our goal for our backup, whatever that number, the county has a number that they shoot for every year. Once we get to that point, then seems to me like we can cut taxes a little more. The only way I can give you money back is to cut your taxes. I can't write you a check. So, what I'm trying to really say is that when we budget the way we're supposed to, and when we manage the expenses the way we're supposed to, when we find that we did a really good job, then we need to lower the tax rate and let the voters receive that reward.
Okay, so getting back to how much, I don't know what the county's reserve is. You may not know, and that's fine. But in your opinion,
Yes,
what
sir.
should it be? 10%, 20%, 6 months, what?
In business, a good rule of thumb is always 3 to 6 months of reserves in case you have just, and that's worst, we lost power and we can't open our computers or whatever. But 3 to 6 months, I think, is a good business model for reserves, especially for a county with the amount of cost that we have. It's very easy in the middle of an emergency. For instance, Harvey cost this county millions and millions and millions of dollars. If we're not prepared for that, then we have to go do bonds, got to borrow money to keep the county running, and I would prefer we not do that.
Okay.
And the less debt we have, the more power we have to be ready for those kind of situations.
Right. Okay, Larry.
I thought we were just going once around.
We're just getting warmed up.
We're just warming up.
Just getting started.
Oh, okay.
One of our questions was, did you support or vote for or against the $336.5 million 2020 budget? And you kind of touched on that a while ago.
Yes, sir.
In your answers, you said I did not have a vote. Obviously, you said that a while ago. But you listed some things that I did speak against the nonprofit funding and did attend some of the budget meetings. You said that a while ago. One of your statements, or you've got 5 things listed here. Commissioners are overpaid.
Yes, sir.
I question the quantity of employees at Precinct 1. I disagree with the blanket raises in which approach rewarding employees. I disagree with the policy of funding nonprofits. Expound it. Can you give us a little on that, on the nonprofit?
On nonprofit, speaking as the CEO of a large nonprofit, I do not think it's the role of government to fund nonprofit. I think charity or that type of work should be done with the people. And if the community doesn't support it, then maybe it's not something the community needs. That's my approach. I've been running my ministry for 11 years now, and when the donations don't come, then I don't do the work. When the donations come, I do the work. I don't receive federal funds. I don't receive any types of government funds, and so I'm a firm believer that if you're meeting the needs of people, then they will support whatever that is. And government is not there to pick and choose who we fund and who we don't. That's where I have a problem with it. We've got over 200 or 300 nonprofits in Montgomery County right now. Okay, well, who are those 5 guys step there to say, well, we're going to give you some and we're going to give you some? Well, hey, my ministry's sitting here. I'm doing a lot of good things. How about if I get some? Well, the next thing you know, we're not going to have money for roads. We're not going to have money for parks. We're not going to have money. And so I think government should just stay out of the nonprofit world and let the nonprofits be in their world.
How did you, we got just a little time.
Sure.
The nonprofits that the lady that lived in Bentwater was the head of,
Okay.
I don't recall her name or many of the details, but how, and of course the Commissioner's Court had given her some money.
Okay.
How do you police people like that? If you do fund them?
If you don't fund them, you don't have to police them. That's my motto. Because you can't police them. That's the point.
Okay, thanks.
James.
Yes, first wanted to point out that your opponent explained, regarding his pretty sizable campaign chest, that amazingly is not coming from small donors, but from PACs. This is a recent article about it, where he was interviewed. From PACs, engineers that expect to get work from the county and so forth.
Yes, sir.
But I want to put your fears at rest. So he explained he's accepting contributions from engineers and PACs, but will not allow those donations to sway his opinion in his decision making.
Okay.
Just in case you're worried about that. Okay. Now I wanted to talk to you about how our county commissioners run our county. Now, a lot of counties do this, but not all. Every county commissioner, including people that we have vetted and supported, insist on running each precinct as their own fiefdom. Now, what that means is, to meet the needs of the taxpayers, they have separate road equipment. That means 4 entirely sets of road equipment or separate lease agreements for that road equipment. No consolidation of any equipment. And I'm sorry if I'm being a little loud, but I've asked this for the past 10 years, and they all talk about, oh yeah, we need to consolidate. Never happens. Separate road crews, separate crew supervisors, separate offices with employees for those offices, separate administrators to administrate those employees, separate budget systems, and by golly, they want their own separate piece of the road fund pie.
Right.
Now, no city runs their city that way, where each city councilman has their own little piece of the city, and no one goes inside that city to spend money except that they do it.
Right.
The police, they have their own police force. No, nobody does that. So my question is, if you want to continue that, why on earth would you want to saddle us with that? And if not, what can you do to bring forth some kind of consolidation in what is obviously a wasteful and inefficient, in case you doubted my opinion on this, way to run our county?
Well, the good news is, I don't think that's the best model. Most businesses wouldn't run that way. My business doesn't run that way. I'm gonna run $3 million through my business this year. None of it was my money, it's all donated money. And guess what? I only have one bookkeeper. I have multiple departments that do multiple things, and you know what? We share resources. Every place we can cross resources, we do. And guess what? I save money that way. I would love to see a better model in this county. Other counties do what you're talking about. They do cross-pollinate
Yes.
workforces. They do cross-pollinate budgets. They do cross-pollinate equipment. And I believe that you can do that. I know we have it's a very large county. I don't know to what extent we can do that. I'm not sitting in there yet to see all the numbers and all the equipment and all the
But
pieces.
if I may,
but-
getting larger doesn't make doing those separate facilities more cost efficient.
It makes them
It's-
worse,
it's-
actually.
Exactly, exactly.
Because now we're going to buy more bulldozers and more tractors and more, this one over here is gonna do the same thing. So the bigger we get, the more we're gonna spend. And I think fiscally, there are some better methodologies at running the county for fiscal purposes.
All right, thank you.
To continue on transportation,
Yes, sir.
he's my straight man. You know, the last Commissioners Court meeting, I guess Commissioner No-Show Riley
Yes, sir.
decided not to continue his membership in the Transportation Policy Council downtown. Judge Keo is taking his place, which I'm sure Judge Keo would do a great job.
Yes, sir.
So again, you know, I like multiple questions. So the first question I have for you, will you support Judge Keo to be a leader in developing the county mobility plan versus each precinct mobility plan? Will you support that? And the second thing is, will you, since there doesn't seem much to be an interest because there's too much work, will you volunteer to be the alternate to the Transportation Policy Council, because we need one of those? And the third part is, will you commit to getting the county employees who are members of the Technical Advisory Committee? This is the group that are the engineers for the counties and cities in the region who develop the plans which are then fed to the TPC.
Right.
Will you work with those employees to improve their attendance record? Because right now, the past 18 months, no one from Montgomery County has attended the TPC, the Transportation, the Technical Advisory Committee. Nobody has attended the last 18 months. So will you commit to either, getting those employees or disciplining those employees for not attending this very important meeting? So 3-part question. That's all yours now.
Yes to Judge Keo. I would definitely support. I think he's a good leader. I think the county has placed him in a position of leadership because they trust him. And from what I've seen, what I've heard, and I go to all the commissioner court meetings, unlike my opponent who doesn't go to any of them. But absolutely, I think it's important that we have representation at these meetings. I think we need to encourage in different ways, getting our staff to be part of those meetings, absolutely. And that's part of, to me, that's part of being on staff here in our county, because it helps our county accommodate and accomplish greater things. Because what I do know, as a person who lives off grants, we are losing millions and millions of dollars every year by not working with the federal government, not working with the state, and not doing the things we need to do to gain access to those funds. I think that we should be spending about 20% on these expenses. We spend about 80% of tax dollars. I think it should be more like 20, and we need to be partnering with these other organizations that already have our tax dollars, the state and the federal government, to help us with many of the expenses that we should be sharing already. But because we don't want to go to meetings and we don't want to get prepared for those draws, I think we need to reevaluate how we do that. We need people that are engaged in that on a consistent basis.
You know, last year, Commissioner Varley made 15% of the meetings, right? Fort Bend's representatives, Brazolia, Galveston, Harris made 100%. And as a result of that, we got $24 million in federal funding. And the other three counties that are similar to us, not Harris, but Brazolia, got between 100 and 150 million.
Well, and when it comes to those grants, we need to understand what is it that the state and the federal government, what are they looking for? Every year they have different things they're looking for. They have different priorities. Well, when we're in those meetings on a regular basis, we see what their priorities are. So as we develop our road projects, or whatever projects we're trying to get them to partner with, we build our projects to meet what their priorities are, and you're going to gain every time. You're going to win those grants.
Dennis?
Well, since we're doing multi-part questions, I have a 13-part question, but I'm only
Yes, yes, no. No, yes, no.
That's a start.
Yeah, first 5.
I'm only going to ask the part about nepotism. You know, we visit with the law enforcement folks here at the vetting table.
Yes, sir.
And some of them say, my daddy was a sheriff, my brother's a constable, my 2 sons are working for somebody, and they seem to think that's a good thing, you know, service-minded family, and maybe it is. But within the county government, we've got a whole bunch of entire families, moms, dads, brothers, sisters, uncles, working sometimes for each other, girlfriends, sometimes business partners, for each other. So, I mean, is that a problem, and how in the world are we ever going to end that?
Well, the good news is my wife doesn't need a job. None of my sons need a job. And my grandkids are only 9 years old, so you don't have to worry about that. Nepotism.
How about your cousins?
Don't have any here, so we're doing great. Nepotism is a destructive tool. It's very destructive because all of a sudden you can't discipline, you can't lead, because they're either buddies or they're family, and the dynamics are so different. And I do not believe that that's the role of the county. That's not what, we're not here to create jobs for everybody in the family. We're here to meet the needs of the community. And I think we should have policies in place through the HR department that we do not allow nepotism to even be part of the process of hiring. We hire based on qualifications, education, and experience. And a lot of times when we do that, the nepotistic part kind of goes away if you focus on, now, if the very best quality applicant happens to be kin to somebody, but they're the best quality, I don't have a problem with that if they're the best candidate, okay? But rarely, when we talk about nepotism, is it the best quality candidate. And so I would like to see policies in writing, in our hiring practices that cause us not to even have that ability to do that.
You think there are some areas, like maybe law enforcement, where having a family of deputies is maybe better than the county department?
Might be, might be.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's different ways to, I think there's probably different ways to facilitate
Yeah.
removing that from the process. I would definitely be open to ideas, and I would love to hear people's thoughts on how could we create within our county an environment where that's not prevalent? Because I think it's destructive over time, okay?
I yield my other 12 parts to John.
So, the outgoing commissioner, I think was mentioned earlier,
Yes, sir.
the largest spender, the biggest liberal on the court.
Yes, sir.
Since your opponent is the cousin of this outgoing commissioner, do you see this as just another term of that outgoing commissioner?
I do. And I think it falls right back into the question that was just asked in the conversation we just had. As far as I'm concerned, it's nepotism in its biggest form. And so I think that, again, I don't think any individual automatically has earned the right to be a leader in a county just because their last name is a certain thing, or they're kin to someone, or they've lived here longer than other people. I don't find that to be a qualification that we should be abiding by.
I haven't looked at the campaign finance reports, but James touched on that a lot of the donors that are given to your opponent
Yes, sir.
are these engineering contracting firms that typically give to these commissioners,
Yes, sir.
and they're getting work back. We've demonstrated that on the front page of US Vote Smart, between all those engineering development contractors and contractors and the amount of business that they get back. Is that what's going on here? And is that a reason why your opponent's not even showing up to Commissioner's Court, that he's already been ordained?
Well, obviously I can't speak to his thoughts or where he's coming from as far as that goes, but on the outward appearance, I can judge appearance, and I can say that according to his CFR, pretty much every engineering firm that I know of around here that does business with the county is on it. I can also tell you that his cousin, who is the current sitting commissioner, is ensuring that there's opportunity for donations to be made. I can also assure you that I personally have, in the last 8 months, missed one commissioner's court, including the budgets and including the extra ones. I've missed one, and the one I missed, I made sure one of my associates was there, and my opponent has not been at any. In fact, the first one I've seen my opponent in was the one we had Tuesday because of the gun resolution, I think. And so I question greatly whether or not my opponent really wants the job or is interested in the job, because I don't see him learning the job, caring about the job, or even spending the time to learn about what is really going on in Commissioner's Court.
Right.
So I think maybe you're right.
It was just a question, it wasn't
Okay.
one of many, but,
At least it was
I'll
a-
defer to Dell.
At least it was a one-parter.
Yeah, well, it's just one. Try to keep it
I'll
in
take
order.
several parts.
There you go.
First is a very simple one. How many commission court meetings have you attended prior to the past 8 months?
0. Most of my time has been focused on disaster relief, and I've been in and out of town, and so the thousands of families that have not had the support they needed, I gave my life to them. So.
Okay. Obviously, businesses are modeled and exist. Any sizable business has contracts.
Yes.
One of the things that I've heard frequently posed is what government functions should be private contracts versus in-house.
Okay.
let's take that general thought back to the subject of nonprofits.
Okay.
I understand your position of government shouldn't be funding nonprofits. What if the government said, okay, I'm going to spin off this government function, and there's a nonprofit sitting there waiting to take this function and run with it?
Mm-hmm.
Would that change your thoughts on that?
For that one issue, it might. It's possible. Because then it becomes a contracted function on behalf of the county, working under the auspice of the contractual agreement to provide a service that the county requests or can fund. That would be a different conversation. I also know that there are a few types of nonprofits that they're able to partner through a county relationship, and the state or the federal government will copy or double or match funding participation. So, but regardless of all those little, I just think naturally, I think the government should just leave nonprofits alone as a basic principle. That's just that's my thought.
Okay, and on my third question.
Sure.
Under fiscal discipline, you said reduce wasteful spending and debt. A nice generic term that's often used. Did you
Yeah.
have any specifics in mind as far as what you consider wasteful spending? Have you looked at well, you sat in on some of the budget hearings. Have you identified some specific things that you would work to cut or reduce to get out of the budget for the next time?
Not any specific items. The budget is 487 pages long. I haven't had time to read all of it yet, but I'm working on it. I think we kind of touched on it a little bit. If we can find ways to cross-pollinate services, if we can cross-pollinate, I mean, I'm not for going out and firing a bunch of people. That's not what I'm about. But I do believe that there are offices and jobs where we can cross-pollinate functionality, and just through the process of retirements and things like that, we can shrink our government. And there's also ways that, if there's a track hill sitting over here that gets used 4 times a year in this precinct, why can't that track hill be used over these other precincts when they're not using it? Why can't we share equipment? I don't understand why we can't do that. And then we don't have to buy as many. Those types of thoughts to me make sense fiscally.
Okay.
Time for one more?
Yeah.
You were at the Tuesday meeting, Commissioners Court, that lasted 3 hours.
Yes, sir.
A big part of that was the new rules and regulations on the
Tow trucks?
tow trucks. What was your evaluation of all of that?
It was interesting, entertaining, and I wasn't 100% sure that the sheriff's department had thought through all the dynamics. It kind of felt like maybe they took somebody else's policy and just kind of rerouted it into us, made a few name changes, things like that. Of course, as the guy just looking in and just hearing about all the details, I don't really want to judge anyone's intentions on either side of the process. I do know that when we do those types of things, I believe we should bring as many parties to the table, discuss it, and then go from there.
It didn't seem like to me from the tow truck drivers that were there, and there was many of them that spoke,
Right.
that they didn't feel they had any input into that situation.
That's how it felt like to me. So I was a little bit concerned that the process didn't go as well as I think it could have. I'm a team builder by vocation. Obviously, to do the work that I do with volunteers and the hours that we give away, that is a team-based philosophy. And so everything we try to do is, how do you bring people around the table, convince them to do one thing, give them the vision to do it, find the right way of doing it, and then you go do it. And I'm not sure that was accomplished for that.
Thank you.
Stakeholders.
Correct.
We're in a county that's growing aggressively. We've got a good location north of Houston. We're close to International Airport, connected by unobstructed interstate, 20 minutes away.
Right.
Excellent office of manufacturing with bountiful water. So my question is regarding tax abatements, because now I was in a company, worked with a company that did not need the $10 million tax abatement it got. No, mind you, they were over here to ask for it.
Right.
But they didn't need it. They were already committed to that Hughes Landing building anyway.
Sure.
So why on earth do we need to give businesses our tax dollars for them to come locate in our county?
Number one, I'm not convinced we do. Number two, philosophically, I'm against tax abatements to bring business into accounting on a normal standard.
Quick
philosophy.
question, when it's given, where does the extra tax dollars have to come from? What type of property?
Those of us who pay our taxes, that's where the
Residential.
money comes. It's all residential. But
Right.
whatever we don't get from commercial, obviously has to come from residential. So now, as I stated in my statement, I do not think that tax abatements is the way that we should be out there trying to woo corporations. I believe that if we get our tax rates where they need to go, and we create an environment for capitalistic investment, I think they're gonna be begging to come to our county. We don't have to go beg them, they're gonna beg to come to us, but if we have a tax base that is one that's very lucrative for them, and we have a workforce that's lucrative for them,
Location.
and we have all those things, I just don't think I'm not a big tax abatement guy, okay? Because here's what I've seen happen too many times. In other places I've lived in lots of places over the years. Walmart was the worst, and I probably shouldn't use their name now that it's on video, but I watched Walmart come into a couple of towns that I lived in and got an 8-year abatement. When the abatement was over, they went and got another abatement on the other side of town for another 8 years. They shut that one down and just went to the other town and got a 16-year tax abatement. And that's the game they play. Or, we're gonna leave, then leave. And that might be the wrong attitude, because I know people's jobs and those things. But at the end of the day, if we create an environment that is advantageous to the capitalists, they're gonna be here, and they're gonna come, and they're gonna grow, and that's their role, it's not our role as a government.
So I've had 5 questions so far.
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna pass
Oh.
my question so that
Do
my
this.
distinguished colleague can ask the other 12 he has left in the runway.
It's after 8, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, but we started after. So we got
Okay.
time, this is the last one.
Well, real quick, I guess,
Okay.
on the abatement issue,
Yes.
we give these things based on the premise that these companies are gonna bring jobs in, and
Yes,
they're
sir.
gonna keep some people employed. And then sometimes they don't bring any jobs in, and I don't really, or they don't fulfill their contract.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really hear that we cancel their abatement, or that we throw them in jail, or we, take their stuff. What kind of enforcement mechanism do we have for the abatements?
Well, from what I've seen here, just sitting through Commissioner's Court, and we have had a few companies that they've done a few jockeying maneuvers that I've watched, but I think it's all in how you write the contract. At the end of the day, it's how you write the contract. If you give them a freedom, then there's nothing you can do. It's all about how you write the contract, that if they don't have certain levels of performance on a consistent basis, then that tax abatement goes bye-bye. So that's the key. The key is contract work. It really is up to the lawyers.
So do you think our county does any of that? Do we take abatements back?
I haven't seen it, personally, I haven't seen it, but I'm sure they do. I mean, I'm sure that happens every once in a while.
I wouldn't be
But a
sure.
lot of that stuff, it's not gonna be public, it's not always gonna be public knowledge unless you go down and you pull paperwork and stuff, but, I've seen other counties, they get them back.
What was interesting in the Tuesday meeting, real quickly, Conroe was at the meeting and they were talking about giving an abatement to a company that was going to build a nice big building and have several employees, and they were going to go ahead and give the abatement even though The company had not even signed their contract yet on the land.
Well, again, I think the businessmen need to be doing the business and the government men need to be doing the government.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
If you'd like, take up to 5 minutes on your closing, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right, I've got a 15-point closing I'd like to give to you guys.
Questions for us?
Yeah, really. You know, it's an interesting thing running for a commissioner. It's not something I ever wanted to do, never had a goal to do. It's I've always felt like my work was serving the people in different capacities. The things I see in Commissioner Court kind of annoy me enough now that that's why I want to run. I want to run because I believe that we need a different type of board of leaders for our county. I'm watching this beautiful county grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, and I'm concerned personally about where it's going to be in 10 years if we don't get control over our spending, and if we don't get infrastructure right, and if we don't start planning appropriately. My kids and my grandkids that live here, they're going to just get stuck in traffic all the time. We're going to have all kind of housing in places it doesn't need to be because we're not managing it right. And I think I can do a much better job for the people of this county so that they can continue to be proud of this county, and we can continue to grow as people and love what we have and keep the beauty of this county what it is today, whether we have 1 million people or 400,000. And that's my goal, is to maintain the beauty of this county as we grow. But let's grow smart, let's grow planned, and let's grow right. And let's spend less money doing it. And I think that's the tool.
All right. Thanks very much. Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.